Welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. In today's episode, we're taking a look through the drinking glass to revisit the importance of glassware and highlight some of our favourite glasses in our personal collections. I'm Joanne and this is Tori.
Hello, hello.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us. I mean, I think we can both say that we have extensive glass collections.
So many glasses.
And our husbands would say that maybe we have too many glasses. I mean, we both know that is incorrect. We obviously have the exact right number of glasses.
And you need there's a glass for every occasion. And how embarrassing is it if you're drinking a beer out of a glass that's the wrong brand? Right. That is ugh.
Proper glassware.
But yeah, sometimes it's just a glass speaks to you. I got the one that says, "Hello, my name is Sour."
Yeah, you bought that one recently.
So I was yeah, I bought that one. I've talked about that before. I bought that one recently. And sometimes you need to be fancy as fuck with a teku.
Right.
That's not my fault. And I think he understands that now. He just doesn't. He's cool, another one, cool. He just, you can tell the displeased nature, but he doesn't even argue anymore. But yeah, I've got glass, this is everything I've got in my room that you can't even see right now, and hopefully someday I'll change the cap. My PC's dead, I'm very sad.
She broke it.
I didn't break it.
And we just had a long conversation about how she needs to move her beer stash spreadsheet to Google Drive because, girl, why ain't you got that backed up in the cloud?
I know, I'm fucking working cloud, mate.
That's too much work to be lost on a broken hard drive. Come on.
I work in cloud.
Rookie error.
And Rick was literally I don't even feel bad for you. Why was that not in the cloud?
Why is that not in the cloud?
Because
Rick
I didn't have that much.
The same thing to you. Why was that not in the cloud? Tori?
Because, and I was it doesn't matter why, because it's not there now. But also, I didn't have enough space. I've had to upgrade my Google Drive. But anyways, it doesn't matter. The point is, things have happened. Neither of us have had a particularly great day. No. And normally I could show you my glasses that are all over here, but I cannot today. But I've got 2 shelves of a Calyx full. The top part of a Calyx mostly, probably about 75% full. And then I've got a few more peppered about and 4 more little Calyx cubes. And then I've got I've got multiple shelves in my kitchen. I have it paired up now. I'm curious about how you do it as well. So I have some duplicates and triplicates kind of saved away, because I'm if one breaks, I've learned this lesson before the hard way, one breaks, you're get that one back, get the backup out, it's all good. And then some of them, when Rick and I've gone to festivals together or something, we'll have both come home with a glass, and I'm oh well, it makes it really easy to pour a can into glasses when they're the same glass. So I keep a row, one of the rows in our glass cupboard is all the ones that are sets together, just so I can be I want this, let's just pull out 2 double-barreled ones or 2 whatever, 2 beer festival ones that are the exact same ones.
So I don't share my beers with my husband because he doesn't want to drink them. I don't have to do that. 2, if Gordon comes home with a beer festival glass, he gives it to you.
He normally gives it to me, yeah.
He's I'm bringing that home for Tori. Then I'll get more Easter eggs.
The majority of the ones that I have are probably ones you've already had anyways, because it's either you've been there or actually I have another one and I've given it to you. But yeah, I can't give Rick's glasses away. He pretty much, it's all he has now is the glass. Sometimes I don't even want it, but it's just the fact that this mine.
Yeah.
If I give it away, he's it's normally ask me about it. I've got a plastic one here.
It depends I think it depends on the plastic one though. I've kept some plastic ones. I've got my Peakender one. And I forgot.
You need plastic ones that you can when you're outside drinking, there's no glass shattering risk.
I don't do a huge amount of drinking outside.
Oh, I do.
And if I do, I take a proper glass.
Yeah, so I do, but if I'm in the hottie tub or
I haven't got a hot tub, so
it depends. Sometimes it's I just don't want the glass out. Depending on what it is, it's just easy. I don't normally use it for normal drinking, but glasses.
I do have a stemmed plastic one that was it was from Bigfoot, and my
think
friend
I've got
Liz
similar.
got champagne in it, I think. Or
Yeah, I think she
sparkling
did.
rosé.
Yeah.
And she got 2 of them, so I ended up with one as well. So I have a stemmed one too, which I have in fact packed and taken places as my stemmed beer glass. I think I
Oh,
brought
yeah.
it. Where did I take it?
I've taken it camping.
Oh, I took it up to
so I've got-
Sheffield. Do you remember I took it up to Sheffield?
yeah.
So I was just
Yeah.
like, I'm having a decent glass if we're definitely drinking in the hotel.
Yeah, because they don't always have like glasses to drink out of, and I think like at one
I didn't
point
want to do a tumbler, so I brought it
think
with
I
me. I was
drank
like,
out
I
of,
know it's
like-
plastic, but
I think I drank out of like a coffee mug at one point up there because we only had so many glasses.
Yeah.
Well, that might have been when we were at Arundel and we used the 2 glasses we already had.
Oh,
But
yeah.
then we didn't have someone change, like we didn't have anyone like come and clean our rooms in between,
Yeah.
just be economical. And I was like, guess I'll drink out of like a coffee mug. Like I was like, I'm not having coffee here, so that's all right. I'll just drink out of a coffee mug.
I think this brings us quite nicely to why we should be using a glass for our beers. I mean, basically,
And why when someone that I know, really try. I want to be very clear to anyone that's listening that I know that I've drank around and they've gone, I'll just have the can, and I've gone like,
yeah.
and then I have to fight my instinct to be like, no, just normally I go, just have a glass, and they're like, no, it's okay, I don't need one. I'm like, just have a glass though, and I really try not to be judgmental. I'm like, what if you did have a glass
though? What if you did?
And when they don't, I have to sit there like, okay, that's a choice you've made, and I respect that. The amount of time, I'm not even joking. You think I'm joking? I'm not joking.
No.
It's happened a lot of times.
So the thing about this is, please drink your beer and all of your beverages however you like. It's up to you. But if you really want to taste a beer, you've got to get it out of the can or the bottle, because we're talking about at home here. You've got to get it into a glass. You can essentially use any glass, as long as you're using a glass. I am that person that goes to my non-craft beer friends and family houses and then goes, please can I have that wine glass out of your cupboard for my beer? I do it to my cousin all the time. At some point she's just going to get me a beer glass for when I'm there. But or actually I think the last time I took a glass with me.
I have
So that I had the correct glass that I wanted.
I've considered it before, but then I'm like, that's just a step too far. I can't.
I've done it.
do that. I can't take my own glass there, and it's fine. I can.
It was to my cousins, like it was to my to family. In fact, it was to my uncle's house, so he expected it of me. And so then it was when it was at New Year, and then we play what weird beer has Joanne brought with her this year, and I try and bring the most interesting beers and see if my uncle, who is like a best bitter drinker, like he was really excited that he was drinking Doom Bar. He was like, I've been drinking Doom Bar, I've been drinking that real ale, Joanne. And I was like, good job. I try and get him to drink whatever I'm drinking, and this year it was some Yonders. Made him drink.
How did that go down?
Yeah, made him drink a cheesecake beer. Pulled a face. Said I could keep it. I said thank you very much.
I like that. I appreciate that.
But he does always try it. You gotta give him the credit. He will always try it, and then he'll say he hates it, and that's fine because he tried it.
That's fair, yeah. You got to give man credit for trying it, especially something like niche like that. Like I feel
Yeah.
like some of the Yonder beers are quite.
I mean,
niche.
I made him drink a juniper ale that had been aged in gin barrels once.
Does he drink gin though? I guess.
No,
Okay.
no.
That's. I mean,
I was just
yeah.
like, this is the weirdest beer in my stash at the time. Let's drink it. Oh, you don't want it? I'll drink it. It's fine. I'll drink it myself.
That's fair.
Anyway, we're off topic of glassware. Glasses.
Glasses.
You can drink out of any glass that you like. Seriously. For the first step, make sure that you use a glass. Otherwise, Tori's going to judge you.
I mean, you probably don't care, and that's also okay. And I'm not judging. Yeah. I'm not judging. It's a fighting against my internal instinct to just be like, but you could just have a glass, though.
Yeah. And I've
got a lot of them. I'm not stingy.
This is the thing. We've got a lot of glasses. Like, if you're with us, there's a selection.
They're like,
we'll find you something you
need
like.
a glass. I'm like, oh, don't worry. It doesn't put me off. I've got, like, so many glasses.
I've got a lot.
It will all be clean before I even come back round to this one.
And like one of the reasons that you need to get it in a glass is so that you can see it, because that informs some of your tasting. and the enjoyment of it. Like, beer, in fact, started to have to be clear and a decent colour when people could afford to have actual glasses as opposed to like stone or tar tankards. Like, so, you know,
Yep.
this is a good part of your tasting. You want to be able to see what it looks like. And then we can go that next step and you can go into all the different types of glassware. There are so many different types of glasses, and some are specific to certain beer styles, some are specific to certain brands, some are just particularly nice, some are just satisfying glassware. Don't be I think my top tip is don't be intimidated. Just use whatever glass you enjoy. And then if you really want to get into it, then start looking at, you know, does your favourite brewery do a particular glass? Do they recommend a particular beer for the glass for the beer that you enjoy? If there's a particular style you like, have a look and see if there's a specific beer for that. I mean, the Belgian beers all have their own glass. So, you know.
I need to get some of those because I don't have any of those. But
I
I
think... You know what? I've not bought any of mine up. I have several, but I've not brought any of those up with me. But I'm happy to talk about it.
But yeah, I think, like, for me, from my viewpoint on it as well, is it's like what we're going to be sort of talking about as well with some of this. And apologies, because some of this might partially be a visual type episode for I know people that listen to it, but we'll do our best to explain and make it as little visual as possible. But I think, like, part of what we're doing today, and thank you to the Google AI overlords, because you also kind of helped give this idea for an episode, because I thought it'd be quite interesting. There's a whole, like, part of your enjoyment is the experience you have.
Yeah.
And, like, that glass could be something that helps you remember that really good experience you had. And so I know, like, for me, it's like tried to find what I could buy when I'd go and visit breweries, or I'd go, like, to certain locations. It's like you're traveling, you're at a brewery or a tap room, and you're like, I want some memorabilia for where I am. And it's like, cool, you can take beer home, but you drink that and then it's gone, and all you have is that vague memory of what it tasted like years down the line, or maybe you loved it so much and it's fresh on your mind. I don't know. But if you're having a really good time with people, like, what's one thing you can take away from that brewery? A glass. And
Definitely
that
a
used to
glass.
be, I think I've talked about it before, but it's like, that's one of the things that's my go-to when I visit a brewery, is to, like, buy a glass. Now that's sort of changed slightly because I have so many glasses, so it's got to be like a really cool glass, or else I go for something else. But I like to get something to help me remember my visit, so that's something that's, like, worth considering if you're going out to breweries and tap rooms. Is like, maybe it's not something that's, like, functional for the type of beer you drink, but maybe you just think it's a freaking cool glass, like the ones that look like I don't have it with me right now, it's on the shelf over there, but, like, the one that's looks like a can, it's like the can shaped glass. Like, functionally, I don't think it's like, that's not necessarily made for, like, a style of beer. That's just like, cool, let's just do this, it looks cool. And I love glasses like that because it's like you don't see it often, so when you do see it, it is cool.
And interestingly shaped glass is always really good. And going back to that whole, you know, part of the experience thing, some of these glasses are shaped in a particular way to enhance your experience of that beer. You know, like a snifter helps to really release the aromas of your big barley wines and your imperial stouts. Like the Vice vase is shaped in a way to capture that thick, creamy head that you're going to get at the top of it, and just make it look really beautiful. And, you know, your mass is there so you can drink a lot of beer in one go without having to go back for some more. Like, they've all been developed for particular reasons.
I like how it's like, that one's not so much like flavour or aroma. That's like, just so you can have a fuck ton of beer.
Because you want to drink a lot. It's, you know, you're in party mode when you're drinking big old steins of things. You want, like, a nice big jug of beer.
Although, saying that, going to Oktoberfest last year, like, at a tent in a field somewhere in Surrey or whatever, they had the 2-pint, like, plastic 2-pint glasses. So there's, like, no handle on it either. So you are, like, pretty much either holding it or it's sitting. Yeah. And that means, like, you know, with a snifter, it's great because you're holding stuff and you want it to kind of warm up, so you can, like, warm those flavors up and get all the flavors. But when you've got, like, a big glass of, like, like a vice beer. It's like you don't want it to be like you're not like
So,
warm.
When
I have to do a Donald Trump when I drink it because it's so big in my hands. Genuinely,
so
I don't have big hands,
Yeah.
so I'm like there doing like this sips with it. If you watch the video, I'm like double handing it, and I'm like, this is good. And meanwhile, like one of my coworkers who has like massive hands, he's like laughing at me, and he's like, ha ha ha, and he just grips it in one.
So when I happened upon Oktoberfest this last year, we ended up in the Vice Beer Garden, and it was the one that I had was a Vice Beer vase, but it had a handle on the side from Paulina. It was amazing.
Ooh.
They were so good. I was like, I like these.
Sorry, this is sort of a tangent, but it's not because it is about glassware. Can I show you what I've ended up with from work?
Yes, of course.
In the theme of Oktoberfest. Well, hang on a minute. Now, this one did not make it to the stories that I'm telling about today. Although, it is now, I guess, really, because I'm not really going to repeat it.
I mean, I've got 4 as well. I happen to have another one.
This
What's on
bad
it?
boy.
So it's a proper tankard.
It's a proper glass. A big old glass tankard. And it says, Project Liberate winner #1, Oktoberfest. Now...
Is that a trophy?
It is. So we had 2 years ago. So the first summer party we had as a company after like sort of restrictions were lifted.
Yeah.
We're getting into the stories already, but we have to go back to the actual glassware stuff. But the first party that we had was we called it Project Liberate, and there's a reason why, but I'm not going to get into the name of that. I don't want to be doxxed or whatever else. So it was an Oktoberfest themed summer party, which it wasn't at Oktoberfest time. It was before Oktoberfest time. And so, like, we just went with an Oktoberfest. It was, like, in the middle of a field somewhere, halfway between our office and another location office. And, yeah, so because of that, they had, like, it was, like, dress up in Oktoberfest stuff, like, prizes for, like, best costume and lots of different prizes that were happening there. And, obviously, the winners, like, got these mugs. Now... I did not win.
You didn't win. How have you got the winner mug?
Well, as far as everyone's concerned, I guess I won because the story is for me to dictate what's happened.
Because you're the winner. Winners write the history.
Winners write the history, basically. And I can say it's my podcast. I can state things confidently as a fact if I want to. And, you know, in this space, and no one can tell me otherwise. But basically, the real story behind it is like, they were just doing a cupboard clean out the other day.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, we've got these glasses left over. Like, we don't know who, like, actually got them who won that didn't get it. And we tried to go back and look. We couldn't find who it was. And I was like, I know who won first prize. He doesn't work for the company anymore. And I'm fairly certain he got his. And so we're like, okay, the other person that I know definitely won. He's now located in another region he's in Australia or something. So he's obviously not going to get it. And then we started going through the list, couldn't figure out who was who. And I was like, I'm just saying, you know a person who will appreciate it. And they were like, oh yeah, obviously, like, we already knew it was going to go to you if we can't figure out who owns these glasses. And then by the end of the day, it became you know what, I can't be fucked to figure out who didn't get it and who did. And then it's opening up a can of worms from 2 years on. And they were like, just have the glass, it's fine. And I was like, ha ha ha, ha, I'm a winner. And I was like, someone tell me. I dare you to tell me that I'm not the #1 winner of the Project Liberate Oktoberfest party, because actually I think you'll find I have the glass that says I am the #1 winner of the Project Liberate Oktoberfest party. So yeah, winners write history. It's pretty great. It's etched on there pretty well. Nice. And actually, surprisingly, nothing in it, and it is still fairly weighty.
They're pretty heavy.
If someone's trying to mug me, this is, no pun intended, if someone's trying to mug me, this is the mug I'm using. I'm like, right, yeah. It will do some damage. I feel like I could drop this and it probably wouldn't break. Right. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to using this amongst my many other.
You have to put a lager in that, I would assume.
Yeah, but I haven't christened it yet.
Oh, you haven't christened
because
it.
it's no, but I feel like I need a gold medal when I do it because #1. I basically said I was going to go home and tell Rick that, like, oh no, I got this because I did win first place, and I tried to, and he was like, what did you win first place? And I was like, I absolutely did, and then he's like, and I was like, no, I didn't.
It wasn't me.
So that's the first story of today. Is this beautiful, weighty motherfucker.
So we're sharing stories about our favourite glassware. Shall I share about one of mine?
Yeah, I just wanted to be known that was
Yeah.
a not one that I've picked.
That's an additional bonus.
It's an additional bonus.
So my first one is my Sam Adams glass. Now, if you've not seen a Sam Adams glass, they are specially designed. And if you've never listened to me talk about beer, Sam Adams is the beer. Sam Adams Boston Lager is the beer that got me into beer. So it holds a special place in my heart. And it's a lager. And I went for a long time saying I don't like lager, even though Sam Adams Boston Lager is a lager. So this is it. This was specially designed.
So they've got like a pattern on it or something.
Yeah.
They?
So they spent 2 years developing this with a glass maker, so that it is perfect and does all the things that they wanted it to do for Boston Lager. Now, I'm looking in the bottom of this one. It should be nucleated in the bottom, so there should be some etching in the bottom that then helps to release the carbonation bubbles. This one has no nucleation, so I don't think this is my original one.
It's not nucleated. My big glass is not nucleated.
Gordon has definitely broken. I've had a couple of these now, and Gordon definitely broke one at one point and got into a lot of trouble. But they have a nice thick bottom on them, so they're nice and sturdy. They are quite curved, so they're smaller at the bottom, so you can get your hand around it. Think like, if you're not watching the video, think like a Craft Master, where it's skinny at the bottom and you can get your hand almost all the way around it, but it's more curved. And then where your Craft Master kind of comes out quite sharp, this is quite bulbous, and it's got kind of a bold top to it. And then the lip, it goes in and then comes out, and there is some glass. What do they call this? There's kind of a glass lip around it.
I feel like I would call it like a Craft Master meets a Carling glass meets a Teku.
Right,
it's like a Frankenstein.
And because of the shape of it, so the bottom, it stands up nicely. It should have nucleation in it to release carbonation bubbles. It's got this nice bowl shape in the top that's then opening up the flavours and the aromas. But the lip captures the head and the aromas so that it's kind of directed at your nose. So you get those lovely aromas of the beer, and you can taste it really well. This was specially designed for Sam Adams to go for exactly what they wanted it to do. And that's why I love it in it. And it says, "Take pride in your beer" on the back. It just ticks all the boxes for me.
Did you go and get them yourself, or did you have to order them? This is the thing is, I have still never been, despite if you're watching the video, despite the fact that I have all my Boston and Massachusetts stuff.
Never been.
I've drank Sam Adams it's like a rite of passage. Like that's what you have to drink in New England. But I've never been to Sam Adams, and I've always wanted one of those glasses. And then every time I go back, I'm like, this is going to be the time. My dad has one, but I've not stolen it from him. And I'm like, this is going to be the time, and it never happens.
So my first ever brewery tour was the Sam Adams Brewery in Boston when I was working on ships. And I bought one of these glasses from the gift shop because, like all good tours, you leave by going through the gift shop.
Exit through the gift shop.
And then, spent loads of money on stuff because I'm a Sam Adams fangirl. So I bought one of these. But if you'd been on the tour, you get a hand stamp. I mean, this was back in 2009, maybe. You got stamped to say that you'd been in, and then if you went to, I think it's O'Doul's, is where Sam Adams was first ever sold on draft.
Yeah.
So if you go there, they've got a little cabinet of Sam Adams stuff from over the years, and if you go there and showed your hand stamp, you got a pint of Sam Adams in a Sam Adams glass you could keep. So I ended up with 2. So they came home. I think I knew one made it home, and then they started having them in Shepherd Neame pubs when Shepherd Neame was first putting out the licensed brew of it when they were doing it. You don't see it now in their pubs very often at all, like hardly ever. And I acquired one from there as well.
So the one that called and broke is the one that called and broke, the one that you actually bought.
I think that was the one that was. I think that was the acquired one, but I think because I was using it because it was just from the pub.
That's fair.
So yeah, I think this might be my original. I thought it was nucleated on the bottom, but it's not. So who knows?
Do you like with yours then when it's something that's like that, and like obviously for you that would be probably really hard to replace at this point. Like obviously you don't have any drink in it now. You're not drinking out of it. Is this one that like how do you handle that? Do you just go like no one drinks out of this ever? Yeah.
That's the bottom line. I've now got a cabinet in my living room that's got the special glasses in it. So that one's in it. A couple of like basically the glasses that I'm showing today are from the glass cabinet that no one drinks from. They'll come out if I'm doing something like particular, like if I'm talking about glassware and I need an example of that, so it often gets toted out when I'm talking about glassware. I have several different videos about glassware, everybody, so if you're not sure what we're talking about, I'll link to those and you can see some information further about glassware. Or if I want to do like a photo from that particular brewery, so I want to have the correct glass, then they'll come out. But otherwise they stay in the cabinet and people don't use them because they're all ones that if they get broken, I'll never be able to replace them.
Or it would be a pain in the balls to replace it, basically. But it's like funny though, because you ever have like a glass that someone like when people come round to your house, do you get glasses out for them?
Yeah,
like your family, for example, or do you just go like, oh, grab a glass from the cupboard?
So there's a set of glasses that are everyday use glasses that are in a different cupboard. If people are coming round and I know they're going to drink beer, I will select glasses that they can drink from, and they can select from the selection.
I love that.
People that come to my house know.
Pick a glass.
I'm like, here's your selection of glasses that you can pick from. You can have a small glass. You can have a teku. Like I have a selection of tekus. Teku's your best all-rounder beer glass. Grab yourself a teku,
and it makes you feel fancy.
And it makes you feel fancy. And but people that come to my house, no, don't dip into the big glass cupboard because I've got a full like Billy Book case with a door on it that is full of beer glasses. And that's my beer glass collection. And you don't go in there unless I tell you can.
See, like, basically, I don't think I've got any that's like proper reference, but I just pretty much know that the people that are going to come over, it's going to be like a handful of friends, my in-laws, but then I know my in-laws are going to go for the Guinness-shaped glasses or we've got those ones, and those are always the ones that they go for because that's what they have at home and stuff, so kind of not worried about that. I think the only time where I sort of was like, ooh, but then I didn't want to feel precious about it, so I was like, ooh, it's okay. And then I was just like, everyone be very careful, was when my sister-in-law came around. So she, like, pretty much, she'll drink gin, but she normally drinks, like, Prosecco or something like that. And that, like, cool, not a problem. But we hadn't, stupidly, it was our fault, hadn't put away the champagne flutes we had from our wedding.
Okay.
And those are etched with a bride and groom, like a sugar skull bride and groom, and it says like till death on the bottom part of it, and it's like it's like quite big, like quite a fancy looking one, and I probably should have put it away, but I think what had happened is like it was not long after our anniversary, right, so we get them out like once a year for our anniversary, even if I'm not having Prosecco, it's like I might drink some like a special beer out of it. Like we got a barrel-aged like wedding cake beer from I don't remember the brewery, but it came from the US and I took it over, and so like we had that at one point and I poured it into like the champagne flutes because I was like, yes, you know, if you don't, I also feel like if you don't use it, right, like, what's the fucking point?
Yeah, like, exactly.
You have to use it or else what's the point? So like we use it for the special occasion, but I don't think I'd put it far enough in the back, and like as you can see behind me in the video, I have like our everyday champagne flutes and wine glasses that they had got when we moved into our first house as like a, here we're coming round and here's like a present because they also know that we didn't have enough of those glasses for everyone to drink out of. So it was like, here's a housewarming present. And it was really, really great. But she pulled it out of that glass and pulled my bride one out. And I was like, oh. And then she was like, oh, I'm really sorry. And I was like, it's cool. And then I didn't want to seem like I was like too worried about it. So I was like, no, it's cool. It's just drink. No, it's fine. I've never,
I don't like that.
Don't even notice that glass. But like, meanwhile, I was like, please no one have an accident and knock that glass over.
Oh no.
But because that would be something that's really hard to replicate. And it's like my other sister-in-law we got for like bridesmaids and like for her as well, we got like ones that were etched that had this like very specific like sugar skull bride and groom on it and everything else like that. And she was like, it's my favorite glass. And I got a message from her like a few months ago that was like, this was my favorite glass to use for Prosecco and wine and even gin. And then she's like, I use this all the time. It was so sturdy. And she goes, I've had it in the sink and I think something happened and it like smashed. And she's like, do you still have the design so I can get another one printed? And I was like, no. I was like, I'll have a look. But I was like, I'll have a look. But I was like, bro, we got married in 2013.
Right.
Like, I'm out of space on my Gmail, man. Like, I was like, I don't
sacrifice things for the beer list.
I was like,
priorities.
So I tried to have a look, and my mum might have something somewhere with the design on it still, but she was like, it was my favourite. So stuff like that is when I'm like, I can't replace this.
That's why they're in the cupboard. Like I think I will have them out and I will drink out of them and I will clean them, because then I used to say this when I was a wardrobe supervisor. If I break it, then I'm the dickhead and I broke it. If you break it, then I'm going to be really upset because you broke it and I haven't got it anymore. When I was in wardrobe, if I spill something on it, I'm the dickhead who spilled something on it and I've got to fix it. If you spill something on it, I'm still the one that's got to fix it. So, I'm still the one without a glass, but you broke it. So that makes it worse.
Yeah, and there's also like, it's funny though, because I mean, it takes a lot. I know, like, my family would say that I don't have a lot of patience and whatever, but like, genuinely, it really does take a lot to actually get me bothered and upset. So, like, the thing is as well, is like, if my sister-in-law had broken that glass, I wouldn't have been mad at her, because I would have been like, that's what happens. I would have been more disappointed in myself that I had let that glass be kept there. But like, it's hilarious, because if that was like Rick and Rick broke it even by mistake, I think I'd be more devastated. Like, I would be more devastated if he broke something like that than it's like a friend or an extended family member did, because I'd be like, oh, I can't get mad. Like, it's a mistake. Accidents happen. I'd be sad, but I'd be like, oh, it's me. I'm stupid. But then if it's Rick, I'm like, you should have known better.
You should have known better.
I think it's like he might have even been the one to have like given her that glass or something like that, or like he just went, oh, grab one out of there, and then I was like, no. But then I also was like, I'm pretty low maintenance, so I was like, it's chill. But like, I guess. Please don't smash it. But I'm thinking, like, that goes without saying, because she's not purposely. I break so many of her glasses, but they're all like, I've broken like one. We've all got a reputation. This is a tangent, but in the in-laws side of things, is like all of her sister-in-laws, or we're terrible. We break glasses like left, right, and center, right? And there's so many reasons for that I'm not going to get into. But actually, I'm not that bad. I think I've only broken 2, but one was a dog tail, and that wasn't me. That was just my fault for putting it in a space where a dog tail was capable of swiping it. And the other one, I think I genuinely did, like, I sort of went like, I was moving and I went like that, and I accidentally hit it, and I went to go catch it and then made it worse, and then it fell. Yeah. But like, I haven't done that many, even though for some reason I think I'm the one that gets the most amount of blame. And I'm like, actually, I think I've broken the least amount of glasses. Excuse me. I think you're fine. I've broken the least amount of glasses.
I have been keeping score.
So I think that's also why my stress levels get like extra high when it's like in-laws drinking alcohol, because we all have a reputation of like, oh no,
breaking things.
Prosecco glasses are for smashing. And I'm like, but not that one, please. Anyone but that one.
All right, what's your next glass?
So the one I'm drinking out of at the moment, which I think is a Weizen glass.
Yes.
I believe.
Vice Vars.
And that is, obviously, this is a Magic Hat, so if you're not watching the video, I don't know, do you want to, how would you describe it?
So basically it's called a vase because it looks like a vase. So
Does
again, much like my Sam Adams one, it's got a nice sturdy, chunky bottom on it to keep it nice and level. It's then quite tall, but it curves in and then back out again. And that curve captures a big head on it. Because a Weiss beer tends to have like a nice dense chunk of foam on it when you pour it properly. So they are shaped that way in particular to capture that. And they're usually quite large. Again, similar to our Mars glass. They're quite large so you can have a nice chunky pint in it. More than a pint, like probably like half a litre to a litre sometimes.
Yeah, this one in particular has come from Magic Hat Brewing. I think
Nice.
I've taken it out on the podcast before.
Yeah.
On one side it says Magic Hat Brewing. It's got the Magic Hat logo, and on the other side it says Hocus Pocus. And I quite like this one as well because the type of like pattern that's in the glass, it's like a swirly like.
It's got like a
I
twist.
would call it like a candy cane type pattern, and
Yeah.
that it like twists round, but it's like. Yeah, it's not coloured or anything. It's just that's the way the pattern is. It's like swirly whirls that go
Is
around.
it
like
in
a
the
candy
glass,
cane.
like the way they've blown
Yeah.
the glass?
Yeah, so on the inside it is
Yeah.
like ridges on the inside. It's like when you look at the best way I can describe this, right? So I'm going to give it to you in a non-beer sense or a non-glass sense. If you look at the sand after the waves, like the tide's gone out, and you see like ripples in the sand, that is like what this glass looks like, but all around the edges of it. And like if you touch the glass on the inside, yeah, like it feels like that. So I'm not drinking a wheat beer, but it's made for their Hocus Pocus beer. Well, at the time, I don't know if this is still. It might not even be in production anymore. I don't know. But it was made for their wheat ale, which is called Hocus Pocus. So yeah, got this at the brewery. I'm not drinking a wheat beer because I couldn't find one because I was like, I will drink a wheat beer out of this.
She couldn't open a spreadsheet because their computer's broken.
Yeah, but I went looking. I think I've drank all my wheat beers because I do love them. But I'm drinking a 7% track beer. But that's fine. There's experimental hops. It's cool. So I picked this one because I've definitely talked about it on the podcast before, but I'll sort of say it again. This one for me was actually, I believe, my first brewery tour was to Magic Hat in Vermont. So I think I've said it before, where like my mum won tickets to a bed and breakfast through an auction. It was called like the Black Bear Inn or something like that. And this has to be probably like 2006. I think I was like 16 at the time. And she was like, you know what? We'll have a girls' weekend away. It'll be me, you, and then my two sisters. And it was said in Vermont. So
Nice.
It was like middle of fucking nowhere, Vermont. It took so long to get there, and it wasn't even in like winter where it's like, let's go do winter sports. Not that anyone other than me and the family did winter sports anyways, but it was like summer, so it was also kind of like hiking, which like again at that time anyways, no one in my family really went hiking, including myself. So we were like, what can we do around the area? And this was like literally, it was like murder country where we kind of were at the time. It felt like, for us, from where we live, literally like a short drive into Boston, it felt like middle of nowhere for us. But I'm sure it actually wasn't. It was just like I'm giving it to you based on like my 16-year-old memory of being like, oh my God, where are we? And the one thing that we could find to do that, like, my mum is just happy to go wherever as long as we're all happy. She's very accommodating, just wants to do what everyone else is going to have a good time doing. And my siblings and I were like, you go to a brewery, that's pretty fun. Obviously I would never drink underage, and nobody would ever let me drink underage, but if I were to do that, wheat beers were definitely like my thing. And like a Magic Hat was quite a big thing that one of my sisters would get quite regularly, so familiar with Magic Hat. So yeah, we decided to go to that brewery. I remember there was like a really, really cool, tall, like tower outside the front, and it was made of metal, and it was like all rusted. And I remember going up to the top of it and then thinking afterwards, that's rusty as fuck. I probably shouldn't go all the way up to the top of this. But it's a really cool like piece of artwork, and maybe in my head I'm remembering it being like taller than it was.
Yeah.
But I remember like going on the tour and like they were like, yeah, it's cool. Like if you're underage, you can go on the tour because you're like with a parent or guardian. Like that's fine. They're like, you just can't drink any of like the drinks. And then I just remember afterwards, my siblings being like, just have some of this. And like my mum's not really like a beer drinker either, so like they would end up with hers, and then they'd be like, she'd have like a sip and then be like, oh okay, cool. And then they'd be like, just have it, like. And then I remember like sat there just being like, yes, I drink beer on this like tour. And that's what I say is like, actually, I know some people give me shit being like, oh, when I tell people, oh, like over here I started like proper craft beer at a certain time. It's like, no, I've always been a beer drinker, and especially like a craft beer drinker, but like that's how far back it goes, like 16 years old, going into a brewery tour and being like, oh, yes, this is great. Sneaking beers with my siblings. I remember like that was one of like the funnest times. And then we got beers to take because they're like, you can't drink here, but like, what if like
at the cabin
took beers back and then we just sat in like the pool / hot tub, or then came back and played some games and drank some beers. And I was like, but you obviously wouldn't do that because you're underage. And I was like, yeah, never. And then I did. And then I also remember sleeping. I was sharing a bed with my sister, and we always laugh about this. It's like, I like cocoon myself. I like wrap myself like in a blanket with like pillows all around. Yeah. I've made myself like a little nest. And the air conditioning was on, and I was sleeping directly in front of the air conditioner.
Oh, no.
And I remember waking up and thinking I was paralyzed because like my muscle had fully just like locked up in my neck, and I was like, I can't move my neck. It hurts when I move my neck. And I was like, oh my God, what's happened? And then it turned out that it was just because we left the aircon on and I was asleep right in front of the aircon. So yeah, that wasn't great. And then I learned, definitely don't sleep close to an aircon and have it on really high, because that's not helpful. But yeah, I mean, back to the glass. I picked this one because it's like I've got so many hilarious memories on that trip. And like Magic Hat was probably one of the first probably like, it was the first brew I ever visited. Really good like memories with my family there. And then like one of the beers that I would go to on the regular. And then why this glass? Because it looked the coolest out of all the glasses, quite frankly. And also Hocus Pocus, like I loved wheat beers, so I was like, this is great. I love the name Hocus Pocus. I love a wheat beer, and it looks fancy AF. And I was like, I really like it. It's cool. So that was my souvenir. But yeah, it was chaos, as you would imagine. It was funny.
I love it.
Well, I guess that's sort of before we go to your next glass.
Yeah.
Just to revisit again on like the glasses, you've obviously mentioned you've got your videos that you've already done about glassware, and then we did like a really quick thing as well at the beginning of our podcast. So we'll loop to all those. We've talked about
third episode of A Woman's Brew was a very short
ago.
Like
3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Can you believe that?
It was like 15-20 minutes about glassware, so we'll link to that as well, so you can go back and look at lots of different glasses.
And we've covered like cleanliness of glasses and how to get your glasses beer clean, and you've done videos on that. Yep. So there's lots of really important reasons to have glasses. Sometimes though, it's just because you've had fun.
Sometimes it's just because you like it.
Just because it looks cool.
Just because it looks cool. Like, all of these are valid reasons to purchase a glass or just have a beer glass. 100%.
What's your next glass and why? What's the background? Tell us about your glass and why.
My second glass, it's not the most excitingly shaped glass. So it's like a little chalice. It's quite rounded. It's pretty chunky. Like, it's a nice thick, like, chunky glass. But it is from Donkey Brewing Company in Santorini. And I bought this when we went there on our honeymoon. So I had already been to Santorini when I was on cruise ships. And we used to go like into the old town, like the bit on the cliff. And we used to go to an Irish bar for 2-for-1 drinks for cruise staff, for cruise ship staff. which is great. You know, we'd get like cocktails or whatever, use a bit of the free internet. But I really wanted to see if there was any like local beers available, and they didn't really do, like, the Irish bar didn't really do local beers. So we were wandering around some shops one day, and one of them had a fridge and happened to have these donkey beers in, and I was just like, because like, if you don't know anything about Santorini, there are donkeys there. You can get taken up the side of the mountain by a donkey, so you know the donkey's kind of a symbol there. And so I saw these donkey beers, and I managed to get one, and it was a red donkey, and I managed to drink it before we got back to the ship, and I was just like, this beer is delicious. Like, this is so great. Didn't manage to get any more of their beers, but it was just like, wow, this is really good beer. And it was one of those beers that, like, you know, when you just have it and like the situation was perfect and the day was so great, and it just kind of sits in your mind as this really like amazing
refreshing
beer. Right, and you're just like, God, I don't think I'm ever going to get that beer ever again, but it's got such good memories. And then I got married, and I was just like, why don't we go to Santorini for our honeymoon? So we did, and I managed to actually get to the brewery, and I got to try Red Donkey again, and it was as good as I remembered. I love it when it is as good as you actually remember it. And I got to try the other Donkey Brewery beers as well, a couple of, like, bunch of different ones. I think I did yellow and white and crazy, and some other craft beers. Like we've talked about craft beers available in Santorini, because Tori has done a write-up on her blog about them if you are interested.
I've got photos of Santorini. So it's technically Santorini Brewery, but it's like they've got they've got the donkey range. So just in case you're looking for it, because I know when I looked for it, I was looking under donkey, because it's like the donkey beers. Yeah. So you can either find it by looking under the donkey brewery, or like 9 times out of 10, if you're looking for the actual brewery, it's under Santorini Brewery. Yeah. But I've got photos of it that I've got in that blog post if you want to know. Yep, it overlooks, like, you can see the vineyard in the distance, and like,
so that bit wasn't even there when we went. Like, when we went, that bit wasn't there. It was just like a room. But this has just got really nice memories from 2 different events. This glass just reminds me of that. So yeah, that's my other one. Another one.
I wonder memories as well if, like, part of that as well was like when you were probably in Santorini. So like when I went, by that point everyone was telling me about how, like, we talked about it before, but everyone's talking to me about how, like, oh, watch out, like, Greek craft beers, there's not that many, blah blah blah. And there actually have been a few breweries in Santorini. It's just obviously Santorini Brewing was like the most popular, and for us, because we stayed like right in a central point, that was the easiest and quickest to get to on a bus. And it was like, they have, I think, like potentially a brew pub. I want to say they've got a brew pub as well that's like in a location, or they had one and that might have been closed. But like, probably at the time that you went initially, so like when I went into the supermarket, the corner shop, and I could get some like craft breweries there that were like really, really good. But at the time, I'm guessing, like, did you have a lot of craft beer options? Or were you kind of like, this is all that was there?
There wasn't a lot. There was Santorini Brewing Company. There was Vulcan, was another one that I managed to find in,
I did have Vulcan,
a beachside shop.
They're super out of the way, Vulcan. Or
I didn't get to go out to them.
They are very out of the way,
I literally found their beers in a fridge when we were like buying some water or something when we were at the beach, and I was just like, there was a white and a black and a grey. It's what they were, white, black and grey.
The black.
Yeah, and so I was like, I'm having all 3 of those, thank you very much. And we took them home. We had them like on the balcony in the evening. Yeah, that was pretty much all that was really available. I mean, when we went, I didn't look too much into craft beer because it was our honeymoon, so we were, enjoying the beach and things like that instead. But
Is that not what you do on your honeymoon? Like, I would have been like,
I mean, I made sure we were going to Santorini Brewing Co. I had, like, most of our holidays we do go and do beer stuff. So for once I was just like, We'll go
And
to
then Rick
Santorini. We'll
hates
go to
it.
Santorini Brewing Company, and then we can do some like.
He
other
likes
bits.
beer, but he hates being like, cool, this day is organised around
Right.
the beer. Like, he's like, I will go to a brewery, and I will enjoy going to a brewery. What he doesn't like is it's like the day is organised around a brewery. He's like, we don't need to organise a day around it. I'm like, but how do we know that we're going to be in the right area at the right time? It's now a compromise of like, okay, it's a negotiation. Like, out of 5 days, give me like 2, like either evenings or give me like 2 days. It's like, it's like a hostage negotiation. Like, we've got to go back and forth. And
I mean,
I'm exaggerating. He is good at it, but
we'll just organise an entire holiday around whatever beer stuff I want to do. But yeah, at that time, we did just want to do kind of a bit of relaxing, not too much running around, because we weren't in the main bit of Santorini. We were out further out. So.
Fair.
So, you know, it was a bus ride in and stuff. So we just, you know, we did a little bit just wandering around, chilling on the balcony, chilling on the beach.
I would say, though, the buses there, like, we didn't use them as soon as we used them, like, the last day or something that we, like, the last full day that we were there is when we actually used it, because we kind of didn't go too far out of our, like, main walking area. We were only there for a handful of days. And so it was kind of like one day we explored the area, and then the next day we had a boat trip, and then that was like the majority of the thing. And then it was like the third day we were like, well, we could venture like further afield, I guess. Let's go a little bit further away. And that's when we kind of were like, oh, to get there, it's going to cost X amount by cab, or we could try to just take the bus. And then we did, and we realised it was so easy.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to go to Santorini, or you're going to be in Santorini, and you're like, I want to go to Santorini Brewing, the bus stops literally out front
outside
of the brewery.
Yeah.
And so probably when you went, they still only have one room as such.
Yeah.
I mean, they might open up the brewery now, but when I went, it was like you couldn't go inside the brewery.
Yeah.
At the time, but it was also post-COVID, so it was still a little bit more like reserved. You'd have to go up the back steps, and it was literally just one room, and then there was a balcony, and it was just like that balcony that you could sit outside in is what overlooked where the fields and the vineyard were.
Yeah, so when I went, there
gorgeous.
wasn't the balcony. You went in the front. You went in a door at the front, or kind of like on like roadside. You went in a door, up some stairs, and there was a room, and there was like the bottling equipment was there, but they weren't doing any bottling. And then there was like a little bar with some taps, like 2 or 3 taps on. Or they had the bottles and they would open them, and then there were souvenirs. That was pretty much all that was there.
It sounds like they basically have done that, but instead, I wouldn't call it a balcony. I guess that's a stretch, like a porch area. And it sounds like they've maybe added the porch area to it, because you'd go up the back steps and it would come into the porch, and then you'd go into the room, which was sort of like pretty open in the summer. That goes in, and yeah, it was a very simple, basic, small room. The music was great. They were listening to it was two women that were working, or they presented female, and they were so friendly, and like they spoke a bit of English as well, which was good, and they was like amazing. Like, we were listening to Fleetwood Mac at one point, like, and we were there for when it was like wrapping up, and I was having like a really good conversation with them, and it was like Fleetwood Mac's wrapping up, and they're like, oh, we're closing in X amount of time, so if you want another drink. And it was kind of, at the end of it was just me, Rick, and our friend, and them. And at the end of it, we were just in there like, yeah, these tunes are so good. And then like, bought a women's fit t-shirt. Like, that was great. I was like, they've got women's fit merchandise.
Yeah,
like,
I do have a couple of,
cool.
a couple of Santorini Brewing Co. t-shirts.
So good. Yeah, I definitely recommend as well. I'll top up your recommendation. I didn't get a glass though. I got the t-shirt instead. And then I proceeded to lose it in the suitcase. I didn't lose it. The airline lost it. But then it returned back to me.
Back.
So,
yay.
Definitely recommend going there.
Both got memories of that one. It's a good one. All right, what's your third glass?
My third glass, and I'll open my other beer in a minute, is my Fierce beer, Teku.
Your Fierce Teku.
If you don't know what a Teku is, it's sort of like, if you don't drink beer and you're listening to this, and this is your first episode that you're really listening to, welcome, first of all. Sorry for all the bullshit at the beginning, but yeah, you're here now. You've made it this far. I would kind of describe it to the non-beer drinker of like, if my dad was going to get a glass to drink his wine out of, and I didn't have any wine glasses, I might give him a Teku, because I feel like that would be the next best equivalent that I have, because it's sort of like it has the fancy wine glass type of like attitude to it, but then there's that like sort of thin little lip at the top.
Yeah,
I don't know how to describe it. How would you describe it?
So it's a nicely bowl shaped glass on it. It's got a nice long stem and a bigger base to hold it in place. But rather than it being like softly curved in a bowl shape, it's quite sharp in its curvature. And then it's got a nice, like quite a big turned out lip. And then it means that if you've got a beer that you need to keep cold, you can keep your hand on the stem, so you're not applying heat to the bowl and heating up your beer. If you do want to cup it a bit, you can if you've got a stout in it. And that, like, the shape opens up the aromas and flavours. If you don't fill it all the way up to the top, you can get a good swirl in it. And that curvature on the lip just captures like a nice big head, and it's going to direct the aromas up your nose as you're having a bit of a drink. So
that doesn't sound as pleasant as it is. It's a lot more pleasant.
Not the
catch
foam,
the aromas up your nose.
The aroma, it directs it up your nose and into your mouth and into the back of your mouth, so that then you're getting that retronasal action where the aromas and stuff go back out your nose, so you're getting that secondary aroma on it. They are a perfect glass for pretty much anything. If you've got no other
fancy.
glass,
like
and
genuinely do, and that's what I sort of described as it is like when you get those more like modern, more like, it's not a square shape, but when you get those wine glasses that are a bit more like modern and like square, like oblong, I guess is probably the best word. Like sometimes it can look a bit like our Three Hills one is like that's like, I guess technically a teku, but kind of looks like a fancy wine glass. It's not really though, is it? Because it's I was going to say it's not. It's like the closest of what I could relate it to.
I suspect it's probably got its own name. You know what? I'm not going back into the office this week, but I have actually got a glass book in.
We need that.
Yeah, but it's like a glass catalogue. So it's from Rastel, who make all the fancy glasses, and I've got one of their catalogues. Obviously,
look it up. I need to know.
I'll see if I can find if it's got a name or not. If one of those has got a name. But yeah,
I consider it a fancy, like the beer equivalent of like a wine glass.
Yeah,
like that's, if I was if I was describing it to a person that is like, I don't drink beer, I'm not on the phone, like I'm on the phone with you, I'm not on a video chat, how would you describe that? I'd be like, sort of like a wine glass.
Yeah.
But I picked this one because it was my first teku that I purchased. I now have like so many.
I know, I've got so many tekus.
Or like now. I've got so many tekus and like the wine glass shaped beer glasses.
Yeah.
But this one was my very first one, because I got it when after we had lockdown. So I had been buying most of my beer like probably more locally, or like, this is before, for me, I really kind of discovered bottle shops and like brewery websites that you could order from like after lockdown, because before I was used to either go into like a Brewdog and going to their guest section, or going to like the local breweries like Siren, or I think I only really even discovered Elusive kind of immediately after lockdown. I didn't even really know that. I think like I sort of discovered them, but I never managed to get over there until after lockdown. So it was kind of stuff like I just stick more local with things. And then after lockdown is when it kind of opened the floodgates of like, there's bottle shops, or people had to pivot to online ordering. Now, some people probably already had it in place, but it wasn't being marketed as much because they probably relied more heavily on like their local traffic, because no one really had need to order things like that online as much. So I think I don't even know how I discovered Fierce. I think just like their logo, and I liked the beer. Like I found it really interesting, the beers that they were making that I was seeing like other people talk about, and I was like, you know what? I saw people talking about their coffee beer, the Eskimo Joe, which is the cold brew. It was like their cold brew pale. Yeah. I was like, that sounds amazing. And they also had a maple one that I was like, also sounds amazing. So I'll just put in like a mixed box order of like some of those, some of the maple. I want to say I got like Cafe Racer maybe.
Yeah.
Or something, or like Very Big Moose or something like that. Like I just got a mix of stuff. And then also I saw the Teku glass and I was like, that looks so cool. I want one of those.
I feel like people
So
don't
my
talk
very
about
first order, I
Tekus
thought, I'll put it in there.
as much anymore. Like, I feel like when I was first getting into craft beer, like properly into it, like Teku was like if you are a beer geek, you need to get yourself a Teku. And I feel like people don't talk about Tekus that way anymore.
But I wonder if people got Teku'd out, because I feel like there was like a trend. But I feel like glassware sort of like goes in trends.
Yeah.
And then I think like for a while there was this big like wave of like Teku, because you didn't see such like a flooded market with Tekus.
Yeah.
And now I feel like it is more of a standard offering now, at least from the places that I've gone to. Like, you can get them a little bit more regularly.
Everyone's got an Allegra now, those bloody tumblers.
Everyone has those. I feel like it's like
an Allegra.
It's like
with me.
I haven't either. They're next to me and I can't reach them because I've got baby arms. So but I think that it's like with craft beer, how you kind of like, you start on the lagers maybe, and then it's like you move your way around the like diverse world of beer, and then like eventually you're like, oh, I'm just back at lagers. And I think that's kind of like the Allegra glass is like, that was like inundate the market, and then we're like Tekus, and then we're like,
everyone still does an Allegra, and I think it's because they're, you know, you can put anything.
Easiest.
You can put anything in an Allegra, but because it's a tumbler, it's got
no
no stem, and I don't like them, because, you know, you do you enjoy yourself.
They're
in
a
an
necessary
Allegra.
evil.
I don't like them because I have to hold it with. I have to put my hand heat on the beer, and then I'm heating it up when I don't necessarily want to, if it's a beer that I want to keep cool. And I just find them less easy to pick up. I don't know whether that's just because of the size of my hand. Like, I'm
Maybe.
like, I want something that I can get my hand round, and I can't always
Well, there are
get
some
a good
smaller
grip
ones.
on an Allegra.
There are some smaller ones and there's some bigger ones, and
Yeah.
But I just find that like overall, I feel like they're a necessary evil because so many people do them. So sometimes
I mean,
you
I've
get, like,
got
a really
so
cool
many
design.
of them, because if you're ever if you're ever going to
you
get a
get
free
flooded.
glass, it's going to be a bloody Allegra.
But then it's like I've got my like hot punk festival ones, and I'm like, well, that I got that because this is like hot punk, and I'm a pop punk person, so like I need that. I've got ones because it had like a really cool design on it. Like Craft Diaries did, like when Craft Diaries have put some out, like they've put out some that are really, really cool. So I got one that was on there, and so sometimes it's just like that's the only thing you're able to get, or like you'll go to you'll visit a brewery and like that's all they have for sale, and you're like, well, or a festival glass. Like sometimes it's like a small version of one of those, and it's the festival glass, and you're just like, oh, another one. Ugh. But then sometimes I also just buy glasses that aren't really useful and make no sense, but I buy them because they look cool, even if they're not the right shape. But that's for a future episode. Yeah. But yeah,
I'm
Teku.
also not a fan of a straight-sided glass. Like, I want there to be some sort of tapering or shape to it, because I feel like with a straight-sided glass, it's not. It's not.
I feel personally attacked because that's exactly like the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. But I feel like that will be on like a future. If we ever do this again, this will be like a future of like, if we ever do a follow-up of like, let's go through more of our glasses and tell the story behind them.
My least favourite glassware.
Might be on
I can
it.
do that for you.
I feel like I don't have least favourite glassware.
I do.
I feel like the Allegra. I feel like the Allegra would be boring.
Like,
yeah,
I've
shaker pints. Maybe
I've got a shaker pint downstairs. I've got a green flash shaker pint downstairs that I got because I bought 2 green flash beers at the Brass Tap in Tampa, Florida, and you got to keep the glass. I nearly brought it up as one of my glasses, but I was like, but I don't like it as a glass. Like, I don't drink out of it because I don't like a straight-sided glass for beer. Like, because it doesn't do anything to enhance my beer. When I've got all these other amazing glasses, why would I use a shaker pint?
I use it more with like water inside, like soda and stuff like that.
I've got a shaker pint in my hand right now. It is my everyday glass, and it's from a festival. It's from the 2016 Dover Winter Beer Festival, but I only ever put water in it. I don't put
feel
beer
like
in it.
those are my guest glasses, because also those are the ones that are like harder to break because they're not an awkward shape, so no one can.
I don't care if you break it because oh well.
Yeah, I don't.
Although I would be upset if somebody broke my green flash one.
That's fair. But yeah, no, I agree that I think people don't probably really talk about techies as much anymore, but I think that's probably just because the market then got inundated.
Saturated.
And I think we accept that like Allegros are just like
The
that
norm.
is just the norm. Yeah, that is the norm.
The Allegra is the UK shaker pint.
Yeah, I would agree. I would 100% agree.
Someone's
on
going to
that.
at us at that and tell us that a Nonic is the UK. Is the UK shaker pint. So Nonic, if you don't know what that is, that's the ones like when you're in a proper pub and they've got the little dimple, like they've got the little bulb at the top. So it's like it's a pint glass, but then it's got a little bulge at the top.
Yeah, that's
a
sort
Nonic
of what
pint.
that's kind of what I refer to. Not 100% that one, but similar to that. That's like the Guinness. Like for me, that's almost like the Guinness glass.
So the Guinness
But
glass is
it goes
a tulip
full out.
pint.
It doesn't go.
That's a tulip pint. The Nonic glass is just got the bulb, like the little bulge at the top. Do you know why it's called a Nonic pint?
No.
Because with that bulb, that like bulge was put there. One, so that you've got a good, like when it's full and of course it gets a bit of condensation on it, it can slip through your hand, but the bulge stops it from slipping out your hand.
Oh.
But also they're easily stackable, and so because of that
Fair.
bulge, they don't nick each other, so they're no nick glasses. So then they got called the
right.
Nonic pint.
Oh, got it. Yeah, no, so it's like that one or the Guinness style will be the ones that like my brother-in-law likes drinking from the most. So that's what
Not
I
dimple
just
pot.
associate with that.
Love a dimple pot.
No, I do love it. I used mine yesterday, so I don't have it over there. My tiny jug.
My dimple
don't have
pot's
it.
gone. I've got a half pint dimple pot.
I've got like a proper one as well that I bought.
Yeah.
I think for Oktoberfest. I think I bought like I bought it for something that I was like, what's the best shape that I can get ahead of needing this like in 2 days' time? And then I was like, that cool, and it had to come in a set of 2, and I was like, I guess I've got 2 now. But yeah, I guess there's not really, for my Fierce one, there's not really that much of a story behind it other than just that was the first time I tried Fierce. It was my first Teku. It was one of the first orders that I placed during lockdown. And it really kind of like started me probably more on like the beer blogging and stuff as well, because I think with that being one of the first orders, I had shared some of the stuff I'd got from Siren and like local click and collect. I think the first actual order I got was potentially from a hoppy place, but Fierce was the first like direct from brewery order that I got. And I think from there I was kind of like, oh, people on my private, like my personal Instagram, like they don't want to just keep seeing beer stuff, and like, where do I put my dog sitting next to a Teku glass? Like, people probably in my friends list don't want to see this, but I wonder if there's someone else there that wants to see it. So I created like the beer Instagram because I thought that would be just a place that I could lob all these photos, and then I could say like, here's what I liked and didn't like. And so I think what this glass signifies to me is sort of like in lockdown, that start of the new journey of like my journey in craft beer. So
that's a great story.
Yeah, that's that one.
Love it.
What's your next glass?
Okay, so I think I've told the story of this glass before, but I'm going to tell it again. So this is my half-litre Dockyard Brewing Co. Mars. Definitely they were called a Stein. I got this one was
I think you're fine.
The place,
actually.
technically, this is a half-litre Mars because it's made out of glass. But
it rhymes.
Where I got them from, they were definitely calling them Steins. So I got this from Dockyard Brewing Co. in Bermuda. And I was...
I think I know where this is going.
Yeah, I was leaving. I was at the end of my contract. So we were, when you're at the end of a contract as a wardrobe supervisor, you have to swap over casts and swap over costumes. So you're working pretty hard. I always used to work between 80 to 100 hours that week to get everything done. And we'd actually managed to get off the ship because when you dock in Bermuda, it's quite an expensive port. So you tend to park up and stay for a couple of days, which is really nice because people get to go out on the town and stuff overnight, which isn't a usual thing on cruises. And we'd actually managed, me and my replacement had managed to get off the ship and go to the pub before it closed, because there was a pub in the port, like literally in the port, that we could go to. It usually shut quite early, so we always missed it. But we managed to get off. We got there. We got a beer. We had steins of they'd got Oktoberfest beers on. I don't think it was I think it must have been late September, October time. Maybe it was Oktoberfest time.
I think if it's the story, I think it is. I think you told me it was definitely an Oktoberfest like situation.
I think it was. So they were setting up an Oktoberfest. They brewed a fest beer. They brewed a Marzen. I'd had a half litre of Marzen. It was great. We were sat there, and I was just like, I really love this glass. Like, this glass is great, but there was no way. Like, they were shutting up. You couldn't buy it. Blah blah blah. And I was like, ugh, and I'm like, never going to get off the ship again. Not going to be able to do anything. And we sat there and we're looking, and there was a marquee. We were like out on some benches out the back of, well, not even out the back of the pub. So the pub was kind of on one side. Then there was a wall. Then there was a bit of grass area, and they'd set up this marquee, which must have been for when the Oktoberfest celebration was actually happening. And we were sat on one of the benches out there. And I was like, oh, this is such a good glass. Like, it's so great. And we're looking around this marquee that is just, like, you know, out in the elements. And there were these big piles of these glasses just ready for when they were doing their thing. So, bearing in mind, just out in the night air, capturing all the bugs. Before they serve beer.
I love the build up. No, I love the build up that you're doing here to like justify your actions. You're like, I just want you to know that they were just there. Like,
just there.
I was minding my own business. They were minding their own business. But I do want it to be known they were out in. They were just out in the open.
Just out in the open. And my friend's like,
to justify. You're like, bugs everywhere.
Yeah, just like and my friend was just like, we could just go take one from over there. And I was like, I don't know. Do you reckon we'll get away with it? Don't know. So we were like, right, we're going back to the ship. We're going to walk round that way, like back that way, round along, see if we can nick one of these glasses. I do not condone stealing glassware, people. You know you've all done it.
That's
Don't
like,
at me.
We have all done it. Like, if you're,
you know you've all done it.
If you're going to take the high road and pretend you've never done it,
Done it,
then that is like.
I literally had a conversation.
You.
Side
I don't
note,
believe you.
I literally had a conversation with a work colleague the other day, and we had some extra glasses from Indie Beer Feast in the office, and one of our other colleagues had one. And he was, oh, it's such a really nice glass, like it's really good. And we were like, oh, we've got some extras, like you can have one. We'll let you have one. And he was like, yeah, I usually nick my beer glasses though. And I'm like, I can leave it on the desk. I can just leave one out.
If it makes
and
you
can
feel
just take
better
it. Like, if it makes
about
you feel better about having it. And he was like, I mean, maybe. So, you know you've all done it.
That guy needs to seek help. Because that is... if the fact is someone's giving you a glass and you're like, no, I couldn't possibly. And then you're like, I will leave it out. And then he's like, that's for me. Like, that is... I mean, I'm not kink shaming. I'm just saying... That is like a therapist situation, if that is your thing. Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway, massive pile of these steins just sat there.
And basically you did a service and you were like, I can't have people drinking out of...
people drinking out of these buggy glasses that have like got like, I don't know, sand and shit in them. So we're walking past. We're like, I mean, my friend were like, right, ready? There was no one around. There was literally just us two. Nobody around anywhere. So we're just like, we're going to go grab one of those glasses and we're going to go. So... we both get there, we pick up a glass, and then suddenly somebody makes a noise, and we legged it. I don't know who it was. I think it must have been someone further away, and it like echoed around this courtyard, but we were sure we'd been caught. Like, grabbed this glass and pegged it. Got back to the ship.
I like that you still were like, grab the glass. Like, I would have been like, someone's made a noise, it's done. You were like, someone's caught us, still grab it, and go. I would have been like, oh, jig's up. They've caught, like, I'm going to just get away. You were like,
I've got this,
gonna
boy.
take
I've got my lovely
your mask glass.
Vest. I've got it. I've got my mask. This bad boy survived the trip home in the suitcase. And here it is with my little silly story about how we then jumped out of our skins because somebody made a noise and we legged it.
I do love it because I think it's a valid point though. It's like, we've all done stupid shit. when we were younger.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, you change and you grow as a person, and no one is being like, the moral of that story is go out and steal glasses.
No.
But I think, like, before, and this is kind of a valid, like, topic as well, is I think before you really get into craft beer, because I don't think since I've really been into craft beer, I've not really stolen any glasses. Like, normally I go, can I buy, like, if I really want a glass, I go, can I buy a glass?
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll go, just have it, it's fine. Or like, most people just take it. I have had people go, a lot of people steal it. We don't have it on the till. I'll just look the other way. Take it. And I'm like, even then I feel really bad.
Yeah. I have one of those glasses here.
What one?
By the way,
one that you've gone.
One that you asked if we could buy it, and they were just like, it's not on the till.
Which glass is that?
We'll come to it because that's my fourth glass.
Okay. I'm like in my mind, like racking my brain. Oh, you physically, as in like you have
got
it
it
here.
here. I physically got it here.
So that is it though. It's like I will just genuinely be like, can I just buy it? Like at least this is. I'm not talking shit. I genuinely
she literally does this everywhere we go.
Before I got into craft, like, I mean, I still wouldn't because I was really guilty, but like, I'd be like, I'm going to take it. And then like, Rick, put it, like, Rick would be like, I just put it in your bag. And then I'd be like, the weight of this bag is so heavy. And then I'd be like, it's the weight of these lies. And I'm like, there have been places that I've got glasses.
I put one in Gordon's pocket once.
They're so good. And like, I remember very distinctly, me and my friend's now wife, we were at, I can say this now because it's completely changed, but we were at Purple Turtle in Reading, like before it got redone and it was actually a proper dive bar, and you'd get drinks out of these like gin glasses that would have like a little bubble in the stem. And we were like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is so good. And I remember us being like, oh, we want to take these glasses, but like, what would you? And the guys just being like, just put them in your bags, just put them in your bags. And I was like, okay. So like the two of us like put it in our bags. And then I remember being like, I can't. If they catch me, I'm going to fess up. Like, I'm not good at lying. And I do genuinely have that. Like,
you before you leave the pub.
I was like, I'll put it in my bag, but you've got to carry it out. And then Rick was like, okay.
Because that's totally ordinary. Like, that's definitely not out of the ordinary. You're not drawing attention to anything.
In my brain, it was less weird to put it in my purse and then have Rick carry my purse out. Like, I don't know. But that was like, we're talking like so long ago. And then I think, to be honest, like once I started like getting into craft beer and like speaking to more people, and like it doesn't take long before you see people talk about, at least like a good few years back, like you'd see people talk about like, yeah, those glasses cost money, and like when you steal that is like such a problem. And then ever since kind of seeing it from that angle, it's so easy to not see it from that angle as a consumer, because you just go like, there's loads of them, like you've got tons.
Well, I think as well there's that like idea, because you know, in the like big chain pubs, they're provided with they're provided the glassware by, you know, these big breweries who have got a lot more money than your little craft breweries or your little independent, you know, craft beer shops. Like they haven't got as much money as those big old pubcos where you're nicking a Guinness glass. You know, these little fancy glasses cost a lot of money. This is
even
different.
Though I don't recommend nicking it from like a big chain either. Like,
no, not either. But you know, that's you know, people get into that mindset where it's like, well, it's, you know, it's coming from Guinness. Like I am
like the worst. I'm like the worst of that kind of stuff. Did I tell you about going into Ascot races? Or it wasn't. It was the Shengar Cup or something a good few years back now. And I was with my sister-in-law, and it was like, you're only supposed to. I went with her and some of her like work people because they were tickets for her, like from her work. Yeah. And it was like, you take a picnic, and it was like everyone was entitled to like one bottle of prosecco or X amount of beers or whatever. Yeah. And so like she packed more than one bottle of prosecco for us. Each, it's like one bottle each, and she packed like more than one, and she had like hidden one bottle on the bottom and then like buried it with stuff, and then another bottle, and she like gave me the responsibility of holding the bag. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, I can't do this. I was like, I cannot. She had to take the bag for me, so I was like, I can't do this. I was like, what if they want to search the bag? What if they want to search the bag? And then I was like, I am literally going to be like, just take it, it's fine. Like,
I didn't pack it myself.
Yeah, like I was like, I'm not gonna go down fighting for what, like,
For one bottle of Prosecco.
you are talking to the person that literally goes go-karting, and my worst nightmare in go-karting is to be black flagged, where you get pulled to the side and you have to be because I find that so embarrassing. And I was like, what if I'm the person that gets caught trying to fucking go through this queue and I've got an extra bottle of Prosecco and then security hauls me off? How embarrassing is that? I was like, I cannot mentally cope. And she's like, just be cool. And I was like, I cannot be cool. Like I was like, what if they find me? I was like, if they say, is there anything else in here? I'm gonna be like, yes. And also, we did leave with a Pimm's jug because I insist, because then, so that was like sober me, and then like drunk me came in, and I was like,
different
with
person.
this Pimm's, but there's like I was like, that's Patricia, like Patricia did this. Then I came in and I was like, this Pimm's jug though, looking real good, don't have one of these. But then also I was still too much of like a baby, so
Did you
I was
make Vic
like,
carry it?
no, he wasn't there.
Oh.
So I made my sister-in-law take it out. She's like, you want it so bad, just take it. And I was like, I can't do it. This is Ascot. Well, it's royal. I cannot do that. And then she was like, just put it in the bag. And I was like, I just don't know. So then she carried it out, and she reminds me about how she got me that sometimes. Every so often, she's like, do you remember that time I had to steal the Pimm's jug for you? And I was like,
I had to do this for you. Because
probably
you
our
couldn't be cool.
Because I couldn't be cool. Which is like, that's why I think it's really funny when someone's like, oh, you're cool. I'm like, no, I'm not.
Let me tell you my Pimm's jug story. Then be the judge.
Do you know how cool I am? Couldn't take in a second bottle of Prosecco because the weight of that lie on my shoulders was just too much. Like, maybe I'm just an honest, nice person. I don't know. There's a lot of cool, quote-unquote, cool things I can do. Can hang out with punk rockers and go to all that. Cannot take in a second bottle of Prosecco to the races because I was like, I'm done.
Love it.
The jig is up.
Love it. Anyway,
All right, carry on to your last glass.
I love my Dockyard Brewing Co. Mars. I'm so glad that I stole it.
Do you want me to go with my last one, or do you want to leave?
You go with yours. and
Leave
then
in
I'll go with
suspense about whatever it was that
mine. Dun, dun, dun. What is it?
someone to
Which
sell us.
one?
So my last one I picked was my full circle one.
Yes.
Which was the Kindred International Women's Collaboration Brew Day. And the reason I picked... so, in terms of the glass, it's not really... How would
I
you
like that
describe
one
this
because
I
it's
don't
an
know the style of this
interesting
one.
shape. I don't know what it's called. But
It is.
it's kind
I like the
of...
artwork. It's not a tulip.
No.
It's not...
It's
It's
stemmed.
stemmed.
It's got a shorter stem than I would say than a teku. But the bottom is a similar shape to a teku. But rather than it going kind of in and then curving back out again, it just goes straight up. It goes kind of tapers
sort of
straight
like
in.
It's kind of like a really thin
It's
tall
like a
Allegra.
tall. It's like a tall
on a
Allegra
stem.
on a stem. Yeah.
Yeah. But like thin... It's almost like thinner than an Allegra.
Yeah.
But yeah, the artwork on the front of it as well. I've got the t-shirt that matches it.
Yeah.
And this was their International Women's Collaboration Brew Day beer from... I don't even remember what year this was. Maybe 2020.
Was it 2020? 2020?
Maybe it was
2021?
2020.
No, it must have been
2021.
It must have been 2021 because we'd already met.
Yeah. We had met.
Yeah.
And also, obviously, lockdown happened, that first
Yeah.
one. And this was like the first one post-lockdown. The reason I picked this is just because, like, I also feel like there's some symbolism in here where it's like, I didn't really know about International Women's Collaboration Brew Day before because all of my mates, like, from a beer drinking perspective, like, I had women that were, like, casual beer drinkers or they would just, like, drink whatever and didn't care. But from, like, a wanting to talk about beer perspective, it was more men.
Yeah.
That a majority of my friends are men as well, so like that was kind of like until lockdown I didn't really have that like female group that I could talk to about anything, let alone beer. And then sort of like that's how I found out about International Women's Collaboration Brew Day, and then obviously this was like a Pink Boots collab and it was a New England IPA, and so like everything about this to me was like, oh, amazing, I'm in. I got the box set, I got the t-shirt. Like, so basically the box set was like the beer and a few other beers, a t-shirt, a glass, and then pretty much from there, like I did the online thing where they had like numerous people come in and talk, and like that was such a cool experience. I think you were on it as well, weren't you?
Yeah. I've got that
So I
glass
think
too.
Yeah, we talked about it post the event happening as
Yeah.
well. Because I think it was sort of like, had we met, I think we had already started recording the podcast at that point, but not by like, we hadn't long been doing it either.
Yeah.
So it was kind of one of those things that we're like, we'll do it together. This would be cool. And then started talking to like Graham and Alex and the Full Circle people. And then kind of like, we obviously had them on. And then like from there, so not only for me was that like a door open into like the International Women's Collaboration Brew Day side of things, and like some amazing women, hearing some amazing women like Katie from what at the time was Nomad, like she was on that as well, and like it was just so cool, like getting to be in a group with like all these other amazing like female identifying people in the industry. Even though it was like, what was great as well was like Graham led it, so it's like you've got this guy that's like leading this as well. Just it made me feel more comfortable because I was like, that's even more of like an ally situation there. And it was just like overall really wholesome and really great. And then from there, speaking to Graham like more, and the Full Circle guys as a whole, I like helped out at festivals there. And then that kind of like, again, the trajectory of like finding out how much I loved working behind a bar at festivals. So I think it all sort of stemmed from, had I never joined this, I would have never been connected to Full Circle, would have probably, maybe, I wouldn't say probably never have worked at festivals, but like it would have maybe been a harder barrier to entry for me, because I probably wouldn't have put myself out there to just volunteer at a festival overall. I probably would have been a little bit more like, oh, I don't know. And even so, I wouldn't have been guaranteed to work behind a bar. Whereas this was like, oh, cool, I got to jump in. Someone put their trust in me to work behind their bar. And then from there, I think I've just kind of shown that I can work behind a bar if I need to. And yeah, that's my little wholesome story of why I've picked that.
That's a proper like pivotal moment for you.
Yeah, so I mean, like
That's
like
fun.
the fierce thing was like kind of how I started. So I'd say like my first glass was my second glass technically was kind of how I got into. My first glass was a bold-faced lie. My second one was like how I got into going to like brewery tours in general and like that whole experience. My third one was sort of like how I got into blogging and just experimenting with like other beers online and everything else, and like my early stages of like that post-lockdown journey. And then the last one was very much like how I've kind of got to where I'm at, where I'm like, cool, what festivals can I go work this year? And like I'd gone from going to like no festivals to being like, well, I'll volunteer at them, and then from there being like, oh, this is super fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's mine. All right, you need to tell me what your last glass is and unveil the mystery of what I've somehow forced someone to let me buy.
My last one is my Boutiliers one.
I almost used my Boutiliers one as well.
I didn't even bring this up. It was just on the table. I've had it up here. I think I brought it up as an example.
Mine's over there, and I almost picked mine up. That's hilarious.
I was just like, do you know what? I'm glad that this is on the table. Like, this is. I think I'm actually going to put this one in the do not drink from cupboard. Because
I feel like when a brewery
get them anymore,
when you have to like thoughts and prayers, like you have to play taps for a brewery, you have to like retire that glassware so that you don't break it. And mine's literally over there, and I don't use it for that reason because it's like so obviously I wouldn't be able to get another one. But it's so, like, huge as well for what it is.
So I've always kind of considered this a snifter type glass. But I saw someone a while back saying that this is like a tiny tulip. And I was just like,
Doesn't
okay.
feel
It's kind of a
right.
hybrid between a tulip and a snifter. So it's very bulbous and it tapers in the top and it's good for your big beers. And Tori and I went to the soft opening of Boutiliers Bar in Faversham.
Such amazing
that they
food.
did with. It was so good that they did with California Kitchen. So it's got like the Boutiliers bottle on it and a palm tree for California Kitchen. Amazing food.
I
We
didn't
sat
even
with
notice
Rich.
that.
Yeah, that was their logo for there.
Didn't even notice that.
Yeah,
like
and,
didn't put that together at the time.
And we just sat and drank Loki beers all night, didn't we? No, we did have a Boutilier. We did have a couple of Boutiliers beers, but then we drank Loki beer all night. And we wanted to buy these glasses, and we were with Rich from Boutiliers because he came over and hung out with us, which was really lovely.
I was like, he was like, "Can I sit with you?" And I was like,
We were like, yeah, of course.
Please.
Please come join
please
us.
do.
Yeah.
Like, you obviously had known him and I didn't. And I was just like, yes, please.
Yeah. And we sat and chatted all night. It was lovely. And we wanted to buy these glasses. And Tori's like, can we buy the glasses? And Rich is like, just take them. So I did. But Tori was like, no, I can't do it. So we were paying for some takeaway beers. And we were paying for our beers and stuff. So we went up and Tori was like, Rich said we could take these. But
I didn't want to walk out.
But is there a way we can pay for it? And they were like, it's not on the till.
No.
If Rich says you can have it, just take it.
Take it.
She was like, okay. And off we went.
But I didn't want to just walk out with it because that makes it even more weird. Just like, if you're like, I'm just going to walk out. Because this happened to me the other day. Oh, we were at Triple Point Brewery in Sheffield. And I was like, oh, like, can I buy a glass? And they were like, yeah, that's cool. And then he went, oh, I don't have any new ones here. Like, if you just, like, you can have that one if you want it. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. Whatever's easier. I'm done drinking out of it. Like, it's cool. Might as well. Fine. So I kind of did that, but I wasn't done drinking. Like, I was kind of hoping to get a separate one, like, in a bag or something so I could put it to the side. But then that didn't happen, and that was fine. But then, like, a staff changeover happened, and, like, the guy was still there, but there was, like, some more people that had come on to work. And I was like, the anxiety levels inside me, where I was like, these people are going to think I'm stealing this glass. So I immediately needed, like, I was like, can I have some blue roll? Because I had to, like, wipe out the inside so I could put it in my bag.
Validate it.
So that way I could be like, I've bought this, I'm wiping it out, and it's going in my bag now, so that everyone would know. And I wasn't going to just walk out holding glassware. That's exactly like Boutilia's. So I was like, I don't want them to think that I just walked out. I was like, Rich said I could take it. Is that okay? Yeah, we drank so many barley wines that night as well.
That was
we were
not
like,
the
we'll
plan.
just go for a couple beers.
That was not
and
the
it
plan,
would be...
yeah. We were like, the plan was, we're going to pop in because it's soft opening. Happened to be that you were there. You'd come to visit me. We were like, we'll go in, we'll have a couple of beers. We ended up drinking lots of barley wine.
We're like, we'll go out, we'll have a couple of beers, we'll come home, we'll like record when we get back, like that'll be good. And then we didn't anticipate Rich was going to be there, and then we sat down with him, started talking to him, and then he's like, what do you want to try next? Like, let's go with this one. And I was like, another
and he's
barley
like,
wine.
and we were just like, we don't know. Surprise us. So he did.
Yeah, although I think
it was good. It was a great evening.
We
it was
did
really lovely.
start with the one-winged angel.
Yeah, we did start with one-winged angel, which had been maturing.
Because he's like, we've got that on tap, and then we're like, let's have that.
And I was
That's
like,
great. So that was already
beer.
our starting point.
That was my beer of 2020. Yes, please, I will have some of that. I think I had a half as well, rather than a third, because I was just like, we'll have that. We'll have one more. We'll go. Oh no, wait, we've sat here for 3 hours.
I've literally got some of the bottles over there. Like I remember you got us Miss Kitty Fantastico, and then you already had a bottle, so you were like, you keep a bottle. We had to like divide up the bottles of like, what do you have? Like,
so we're just walking out with glasses and empty bottles.
Yeah,
like the craft beer weirdos that we really are.
I just want to say as well, I remember we went to that pub. I'm not going to talk about the experience at that pub. I'll keep that to the side because we're in good vibes right now. But I remember sitting there and then being like, okay, the train's like 15, 20 minutes, whatever. And you're like, I can't find my ticket. I
dropped my ticket out of my pocket. Oh,
and I ran.
You did?
I literally was like, I'll go find your ticket, you stay here. And then I like literally ran down the road.
All the way down the other end. How I dropped that, I do not know.
And I ran down, found your ticket, and then ran back. And then got harassed, but it was cool.
It was an adventurous evening.
It's good.
It's an adventurous evening for us, but I also love it because it is my Boutilia's glass. Boutilia's was one of my favourite local breweries. RIP, very sad. Glad that we've still got Loki though. So
very much
support your local breweries, everybody.
Yeah, they were also one of Boutilia's was one of the first ones that I got beers from. I got Doki Doki as one of the first like online orders that I got as well. And I just got it strictly because like I loved the anime like names and labels and stuff like that. So yeah, obviously when we went there I was like, but I feel like we can talk about the story now because it's like, because not for the sad reason that because they're sort of no more in that iteration, because I felt like for the longest time we were like, we can't say where we got these glasses from, because I was like, I don't want to be like, I went to there and then we drank with Rich, and then Rich said I could have it, and then I was like, oh, what if I get Rich in trouble? Like, I was like, oh, I don't want.
Rich was the owner.
I know, but in my brain,
Like, he
I was
can
like,
give you glassware.
yeah, but in my brain, I was like, the last thing I want to do is send people down a path, because I think I posted it before, and people were like, oh, that's such a cool glass. Where did you get it? And I just like ignored it because I was like, the last thing I wanted to do was have like 5-10 people messaging him being like, can I have a glass as well? Like I didn't want to set people after him and then be like, almost make him regret letting us have those glasses. And I'm sure the barley wine was probably the reason he let us have those glasses, but it's fine. I'm gonna take it for what it is, and I hope to see Rich again soon, because I think the last time I saw him was London Craft Beer Festival, and he is like such a lovely person.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
I
saw him at the Faversham Hop Festival before they shut down that pub. It was good times.
Yeah, I might need to retire my glass as well, because if that one breaks, I'll be
yeah,
very, very
so
sad.
now I'm sad.
It's because it's so big. Like it is just a.
I mean,
chunky
it's
boy.
pretty chunky, so I think you'd be all right. But
I love it.
because I will never be able to get it again, I think it needs to go. It needs to be inaugurated into the show cupboard. Yeah,
Agree. I might have to do the same. I don't think I've got any other like Boutilliers, like barrel aged like Boutillier stuff or anything even that I'm gonna drink. That
I've still got a One Winged Angel.
Oh boy!
It's in the fridge. I've been hanging on to it. It's my last ever Boutilliers beer. I nearly drank it at the weekend, and I was like, no, I can't bring myself to do it.
I need an
Not
espresso
yet.
because this is a depresso way to end this episode.
Sorry.
No. I need an espresso for my depresso because this is too much.
It's good memories. It's good memories of good times.
It was a really good memory. Yeah. It was like, I remember walking back and then being like, we've got like all like all the things, and then like being like, we've got time to kill before the train, and then you just being like, I can't find my train ticket, and I was like,
ticket.
And then I was like, I will be right back, and then I just ran trying to find it for you, and then I managed.
I'll just
there was
buy
like
another
so
one.
many.
I'll just
there was
buy
like
another one. It's
so many on the ground as well. And I was like picking up, and I was like, nope, that one's not even today's date on it. Like, I had germs, so many germs. Because you were like, I'm never gonna get back down there and back, like before our train. And I was like, stay here with the things. I will go. Oh, it's great.
These are the beer adventures. These are the beer adventures you can have while buying glassware, people.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not running with my glassware, so I'll keep it here.
I look after the glassware.
It's true.
And the empty bottles.
Well, that was a brief look into 4 out of our many, many glasses, and I'm sure there's many more stories to be told from all of our glasses. Maybe we'll revisit it again in future.
Let us know your favourite glassware stories.
I really want to start asking people that we interview what their favourite glass is and why.
Yeah, let's do that.
I almost kind of want to start being like, when you come on the episode and we drink this beer, like, pick your favourite glass. No reason, just pick your favourite glass.
Yeah.
And then just ask them.
Let's do it.
Because I feel like there's so many stories to be told through the glasses, which, like, as we've demonstrated tonight, it doesn't even have to be about the glass.
No.
It's more about what happened in the journey to get the glass. Or immediately after the glass.
Yeah.
So I want to explore that more. I think it's fun.
Tori, if people want to share their glass adventures with you, where can they do that?
You can share your adventures in glassware with me. Adventures _in_optimism on Instagram. Or on Gmail, adventuresinoptimism@gmail.com. Or you can send them to both Joe and I at A Woman's Brew on Instagram or A Woman's Brew podcast @gmail.com. Very exciting stories, and I want to hear everyone else's. So, Joe, if people want to like talk to you more about doing runners when they hear noises, where can they talk to you?
You can come and talk to me about that at my beer school, which is Love Beer Learning on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok and Pinterest. And there you will find more wonderful information about the different types of glassware, what beers you should be using them for, how to get them clean, things like that. You can also come to my website to do that, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk, or you can email me, don't at me about nicking glasses because I don't care, and that is lovebeerlearning@gmail.com.
You can go to the 2 ends of the spectrum. You can share your anxiety stories with me, because I'll definitely relate. Or you can share your big balls energy with Joe. Or if you just want to share your favourite glass and the story behind it, let us both know and meet in the middle.
Know.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, on that note then, Joe.
On that note, cheers.